What if you could unlock the potential of internal temperature monitoring to know when a cow is sick before she ever looks the part? Well, in part 3 of our 4-part series with smaXtec, we hear from Amanda Dolphin, a lifelong cow person turned dairy tech expert, who's seen firsthand how technology can transform both the animal and the operation. From early alerts to calving predictions, Amanda shares how she helps producers go from reactive to proactive. That and more right here today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. If you missed parts 1 and 2, check out episodes 269 and 278 with Amber Horn-Leiterman and her team at Hornstead Dairy. Check the show notes for more information and links to those episodes. This episode is brought to you by smaXtec. smaXtec is a health management system for dairy cows. The unique Bolus technology measures internal body temperature, water intake and drinking cycles, and rumination and activity. For more on smaXtec, check out the links in our show notes. So Amanda, you have spent your whole life in the dairy industry, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and now you're not just in dairy, but also in dairy technology.
Yep.
But take me back a little bit. What is your dairy background?
So I grew up on a dairy farm in Casco, Wisconsin, which is in Kewaunee County. Farm has been in the family since 1868, so lots of history there. Got about 225 milk cows, raise all the young stock. So I always tell people cows are my blood. That's my passion. I could sit and talk about cows all day. Cows are my jam, is what I always say. So
Yeah, so you've been hands-on with cows, running the family farm, and also that farm is still in operation. And who's managing the day-to-day there now?
So the day-to-day now are my two sisters, and then my mom and dad are still owners, involved in the day-to-day. And my two sisters' husbands are also involved in the farm.
And you keep your pulse on things there now too?
Yeah, I still keep an eye on things, and with the smaXtec system, on the farm, I can keep an eye on the cow's health too, wherever I am, even though I'm not there day to day. I kind of, like I said, the cows are my passion, so I keep tabs on what's going on at home too. So maybe too much sometimes if you ask certain people.
So you're a cow person.
Yep.
You know cows, you see cows.
Yep.
And so for you, what were your first thoughts when you started hearing about technologies that were coming out to essentially help other people have your type of cow sense and even more intrinsic, even that monitoring inside the cow?
We had collars on the cows, and if you would have asked me back when we put collars on in 2014 that there would be a bolus that sits inside the cow and measures even more data from the collars could give us, I would have probably told you you're crazy. But here we are, 2025, and we've been using smaXtec at home for almost 3 years, and I can't imagine living without it. Just all the data that we get from it. Just, I'm a cow person. I can tell, by looking at a cow that she's not feeling well, but with smaXtec, it's, I can't tell that she threw a fever at midnight, whereas smaXtec is watching her 24/7. So, it's just, you can't get better than that.
How did you end up with that technology in your family farm's herd?
We were kind of at a crossroads at that point.
So break down that decision making a little bit more.
So, with the collar system, time it flagged that they were sick. Oftentimes we could already see it. We're too late to the party, essentially. So with having that internal temperature, we're getting alerted 2 to 3 days before that cow even looks or shows clinical signs. So that's really what drew us to that. Just getting ahead of things, being more proactive, more preventative versus having to treat cows that are down and out already.
So it was really that temperature
Yep.
that was the deal breaker for you of saying, okay, we are going to move away from strictly rumination to now having internal temperature as well.
Yep. Yeah, so with that internal temperature, you can do so much more than just rumination alone because it's inside the cow. We already had the rumination and activity data, but now we're getting internal temps, so we know when the cow is sick. Another thing that I found out I really love is the temp decreases as well for those fresh cows. So your milk fevers, you're not finding, when you go out to milk at night, you're not finding a down cow. Like, you already know that she's low in temp and needs supportive prayer. And the same thing with ketosis. We're finding ketosis with the temp decreases versus having to go out and BHB, blood check all the cows, certain days of milk and all of that. So just those temp things that you can do. And another one of my favorite things is the calving detection, which is done through temperature. So we're a smaller dairy, so, you might be in the field all day, or, you're not specifically watching that maternity area 24/7. So it's really nice to get that heads up, hey, this cow's going to calve in 15 to 20 hours.
So once again, that piece of information, the temperature monitoring and the deviation, the spikes, and then also the decreases, you've really come to look at that as one of the most valuable pieces of data that you're looking at on a daily basis, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you've been speaking from the perspective of your family farm, but you work to support a lot of other farms as well. And so in addition to rumination and temperature monitoring, and you mentioned the calving alert as well, what do you find others are saying that they value most about the data, and what's really been game changing?
So everything that ties into that temperature, early detection from the temperature. We have true advice alerts now that give you probability of, hey, based on all of the data that this Bolus is collecting and using artificial intelligence, we suspect it might be mastitis. So we might suspect milk fever, ketosis. So those things have been huge with customers to try and help. Drinking cycles, that's another big one that people like to watch, to see, okay, that cow calved in, is she drinking enough water to support, that milk production that's coming. So, just all those little details that are available because it's inside the cow.
Yeah. And, knowing that you're a cow person at heart, when you can actually see how much water a cow is drinking right after calving, right? And okay, she needs to get up, she needs to take a couple big drinks. This is going to be essential to really kicking off the next 3 weeks in a good place.
Yep, absolutely.
But you don't have to be there, right? So whether it's you back home or someone that you're working with in the field, how valuable is that to getting cows off on that right start?
It's very valuable because, we'd talk about this 4 days in milk check. 4 days in milk, you want the cow to basically double all of her rumination, going back up to where she was before she calved. She doubles her water intake, all that type of stuff. So it's really, really valuable. And that's the other thing with smaXtec and keeping such a close eye on those fresh cows. You only have that beginning period to set them up for their whole lactation. So if they struggle during their fresh period, they're not going to milk as much. They're going to usually struggle with repro. So it's just a big snowball of events. So
you've been sold on the data points and the results that can drive. I mean, since you've been watching this on your own family farm, watching other farms implement that system, but to just really, kind of put the how-tos together. When you're supporting your customers and implementing a new technology like a Bolus, what's that whole process like?
Depending on the herd size, the farm layout, we have base stations. Those are the readers that go in the barn to communicate with the Bolus. So depending on the farm size, that'll depend on how many you need in the barns. But the great thing about the base station is you don't need Wi-Fi. They have a SIM card just like your cell phone would to connect to the cell towers. And that's how they communicate with the cloud. You need a 110 outlet to plug in the base station. She boots up, and then you're able to activate your boluses. There's a smaXtec app you use to assign your boluses to the cow. Literally takes 10 seconds a cow. You assign that bolus, you give it to the cow, and you're off on your way.
So that's interesting. So SIM card is what's used to put into the system and all cellular data driven.
Yep.
What difference has that made in some of the regions that you end up working with? Because internet conductivity is a problem in a lot of rural areas.
Yeah, it's, you can see the relief. You talk to some farmers and they're like, oh, this system requires Wi-Fi, so we haven't done it yet. So it's like, oh, we don't need Wi-Fi. So it's kind of just one less barrier or box that the farm has to check to be able to implement the technology.
So we've been talking about this installation process and kind of getting things up and rolling on the tech side.
Yep.
So there's the technology side, the hardware side, but then there's the people side and the software side.
Yep.
So what's it been like to implement and educate on the employee side and the herd manager side, actual day-to-day use, so that they can do what they want to do and be empowered to know what to do with the data that's being collected?
Yeah, so the great thing about smaXtec is that, we're not getting sold through dealers or whatnot. We have our direct group of team. So we have the dairy herd advisors, and they're huge on getting farms up and running. They're meeting with them during like the onboarding phase, doing different sessions. If you have AI techs that are going to be using the system, the vets, the herds people, everybody can get trained on how to use the system, how to analyze the data. And then beyond that, there's like customizable reports that the dairy herd advisor can work with the herds people or the owners, whoever, to get, specific reports made to make life easier on the farm based on all those alerts. Just really, those dairy herd advisors are there because we want our customers to succeed. We want them to have this success with the system. So we're there for them and supporting them in whatever way they need. Like I always tell them during the meeting, like, I still view myself as a farmer, even though I'm in this smaXtec role. And if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be here sitting at your kitchen table, talking about it. So
yeah, and so as you are doing exactly that, working your professional off the farm role, do you still keep your hands and your eyes on the herd back home?
yeah, I try to help out here and there when they need me to. If the brother-in-law needs a morning off from feeding cows, I'll go feed cows or do morning chores here and there. So I try to help out when needed.
Yeah.
I have my son, I got him trained in to feed calves now. So
Jace?
yep, Jace.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and do you take regular peeks at your own dashboard on your phone to see how things are going at home?
yep, I'm on it every day.
So speak to this from what you've seen in your own family farm and also with the customers that you work with. What do you see with that early detection and tying it to higher profitability and productivity on the dairy?
Yeah, so just, you're keeping that cow healthy. She's spiking these fevers. She still physically looks fine. She's still eating, but just hitting her with some preventative care, you're really just keeping her moving. So she never falls off the cliff, never stops or loses, milk production. So she just keeps rolling and she's staying healthy. An example at home, we have compost bed pack barns. So occasionally we struggle with Klebsiella mastitis. Prior to smaXtec, the collars would tell us, hey, she's sick, but we could already see, she's a big, hard, hot quarter, not eating. With smaXtec, we've actually been able to move away from like IVing them with a bunch of antibiotics because we're catching them earlier. And, yeah, we still might need to treat the quarter, but we're not having to use as extreme of antibiotics, and they're keeping going. They're not losing all the milk production or losing a quarter like you had in the past. So it's just from that side on the farm side, it's been huge that way.
Yeah. So when you talk about that with being on a pack, I know so many farms in the last couple of years that have gone from sand bedding to composted manure.
Yep.
And so similar environment that can be stirred up for bacteria and those pathogens. Have you seen any herds where this has been that game changer for them too in early detection?
Yeah, I've got one herd in particular, like that mastitis alert that smaXtec provides. Like they're like, we can't believe how accurate it is. Like, they get that alert, and sure enough, if they CMT the quarter or the cow, they find the positive quarter. So it's definitely, a game changer that way with using the system and following those alerts.
Yeah. One thing we haven't talked about in this conversation a whole lot is repro. So for you, any stories that really stand out of how you've been able to help farms capitalize on the opportunity to gain those extra few points for preg rate? Maybe it's a few points, maybe it's double digit. Any stories that really stand out in your mind?
There's a couple, a lot of farms these days, they're on, the shot protocol. So they got really good numbers from those shot protocols, and they're leery to give that up. But I've gotten a couple clients to at least try just breeding off of first heats, with the smaXtec system and with their younger cows, and they've seen, really good success. Like they can't believe, they're cutting their sync list in half. They're not having to go out, and all the labor and time that's spent just giving the shots.
And on that note, from your perspective as a dairy farmer and also as someone who deals with technology every day, what's your advice to another producer out there that is considering implementing not just rumen monitoring, but this plethora of data, and adding it to their day, to their dashboard?
Yep. In my mind, it's, obviously I have the proven background, like I have the hands-on experience, but in my mind, if you take care of the cows, they take care of you. So with this technology and just being able to be proactive with that temperature, it's a no-brainer, and just go for it. Like you're not going to regret it.
And so for you, when you think about the impact that you get to have working with dairy producers, but working with the folks on your team that help to educate and support those producers and adding a whole new tool to their toolbox, how do you believe that you're able to support the success of the dairy farmer?
So I just think with, all of the dairy herd advisors or the smaXtec consultants, we offer a wide range of knowledge that, another set of eyes on the dairy per se, working with them and helping them reach their goals, whether it's setting up reports to make their treatment team, more efficient, or working with their vets and nutritionists and like picking out things that maybe might not be seen. I think that just brings another level.
You just heard from Amanda Dolphin, a dairy farmer and a dairy tech expert from smaXtec, sharing what's possible when data meets true cow sensing technology. Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and as always, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is brought to you by smaXtec. smaXtec is a health management system for dairy cows. The unique Bolus technology measures internal body temperature, water intake and drinking cycles, and rumination and activity. For more on smaXtec, check out the links in our show notes.